Show. It's your home for real football talk, live 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to blow the commercial break here because our next guest has been waiting patiently in the green room, and we're excited to pop him on because we've been talking primarily NFL, little college football throughout the show. We're going to shift gears a little bit and change over to the FCS side of things, shine the spotlight on the small school prospects, and here to do that is the Analyst senior editor, Craig Haley himself. Welcome to the show, Craig. How you doing, man?
I'm great, Rick, but not fair. You're having me come on after Howard Balzer. I mean, I just can't keep up with that. He's just tremendous.
But yeah, well, we try to load up the guests here, and your audio is coming in a little echoey. I don't know if there's something we can do about that, but we'll ride with it for now because I really want to talk to you about the FCS happenings. You are an FCS poll voter, and I noticed that your top 5 was a little bit different in terms of the official top 5 on the FCS poll. Now, I did go to school up in Providence, Rhode Island, and Johnson and Wales University, so I'm very familiar with the Rhode Island Rams. And they're right now on the outside looking in of the FCS top 5, but you really like this squad, huh?
I do. I actually manage the Stats Reform FCS media poll. We have 56 voters nationwide, all conferences represented. They were 6th. I have them just a little bit higher. It's just a tremendous squad. Jim Fleming has, so much depth back from last year. The team that, won a playoff game and really just had a fabulous season. I'm very impressed. I mean, they're coming off a win at Stony Brook on the road, which is a very tough place to win. They won by 2 touchdowns. So I just think Rhode Island is tremendous. And again, they're 6th in our Stats Reform top 25 poll. So they've really creeped up.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Coach Fleming, somebody who I've had a chance to talk to over the years. And I had my FCS poll here in front of me. It disappeared. But for the listening audience at home that may not be aware of how that FCS poll shakes out, give us that top 5 if you can.
Well, it's a very familiar list at the top. You have North Dakota State, the defending national champions, number 1. South Dakota State is number 2. They won 2022 and 2023 championships. They've had the most impressive start of all. They've beaten Sacramento State in a ranked game. They've won at Montana State, which is very hard to do. You have Montana State 4 and Montana 5. Now, in between, you have Tarleton State, which started the year number 10 in our preseason poll and is coming off a banner year. They're only in their 6th year on the FCS level. They went to the playoffs last year in their first year of eligibility, and they've just reloaded. Here they are 3-0, including a win at Army. So they've had a great start, and they're number 3.
Yeah, it's so interesting because out in Montana and the Dakotas, this is it. This is the only game in town. And I have yet to been to the Fargo Dome, but it's on my bucket list. I don't know. Have you ever been out there to the Fargo Dome? It looks like an incredible experience.
That is one place I have not been to. You throw out some of the best environments. That would be one. I've been to the Mecca, which is Washington Grizzly Stadium, Montana. I've been all around Eastern Washington, red turf, but I've not been to the Fargo Dome.
All right, maybe we'll have to do a road trip, you and I, from New Jersey to the Fargo Dome. Speaking of head coaches at the FCS ranks, I'm going to plan to be at the Lincoln Financial Field Center for this Norfolk State, Delaware State, Mike Vick versus Deshaun Jackson. I mean, Deshaun Jackson getting his first victory here this past week. I think Norfolk State also got the W. But what are your thoughts and impressions on these 2 new head coaches at the FCS ranks?
It really brings the spotlight, of course. And it's a shame their matchup isn't until October 30th. A ways down. There's so many games before then. But I think at that time, there probably won't be a MEAC game with a bigger national spotlight just because of Coach Vick and Coach Jackson. I think by then they will have their systems really embedded, both coming off, their first wins. Tremendous. I mean, even Delaware State, which has been down, not only did they beat a UAlbany, but they played pretty well against Delaware, which they've never beaten. They only lost by 17. That's actually a pretty good score for them. Michael Vick's team, they had the national spotlight against Towson on ESPNU. and then they go and beat Virginia State in overtime. You see the excitement at the schools. They've brought in some recruit, not just recruits but transfers. Both programs are on the rise with the two of them as their head coaches.
Yeah, I had a chance to visit Delaware State for the training camp tour, and it's interesting down there. I mean, they've got a former NFL player at every positional coach, and I don't think they even know who's on the team because they brought in so many new players, and it's been fun to watch, that's for sure. So that's going to be Halloween Eve. We'll be all dressed up for that affair, and we're always interested in learning, wanting to learn more information about these small school players and a couple of guys who are on the NFL radar. And so I figured it would be good to pick your brain on them, Craig, because nobody could really provide us the insight and background like you can. You've been following these guys their whole career, and I couldn't help but notice the Senior Bowl was up at Youngstown State, taking an up-close look at Max Tomczak, the nephew of Mike Tomczak, who, if you're not aware, the listening audience at home, Mike Tomczak has really had a hell of an off-the-field struggle and an incredible story. But Max Tomczak, what can you tell us about this young man?
He's been very productive in his career. I mean, he came into the year over 2,000 receiving yards. They have a quarterback who can, really run the ball. Their quarterback has over 400 yards in 2 games. So right now they're running the ball, but Max gives them that option. He's not huge size wise. He's 5'11" kind of slot player, but toughness, great hands. I mean, just that kind of player that just breaks up a defense by going in the seams, and then Max is certainly, has seen his stock rise in the last year, just impressing NFL scouts.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact alone that the Senior Bowl sent the scout there, I mean, that had to be good for the program, for the player, and that tells us something. And of course, he's got the NFL bloodlines, which NFL scouts absolutely love. And maybe the top-rated small school or FCS prospect also has some NFL bloodlines. And that you mentioned North Dakota State, they got a wide receiver there in Bryce Lance. Listeners of the show may remember the last name, the younger brother of Trey Lance. And Bryce is blazing quite a name for himself up there, I should say.
He's really taken off in the last year. He was there 3 years, 1 redshirt year. He had 1 reception in his first 2 years on the field. Last year, he breaks out with a 1,000-yard season, 17 touchdowns. 7 of them in the FCS playoffs. He just shot up against the best competition. He's tall, he's a little lanky, 6'3", he's listed at 209. Maybe he has his brother's wallet in his uniform when they weigh him, because I'm not sure he's 209. But just so impressive with the size and speed kind of combo, and just a playmaker. I mean, you mentioned the bloodlines. That is just going to attract attention. You add in that it's coming from North Dakota State, which is the premier FCS program. They have more NFL players and draft picks than many FBS programs. I mean, I think since 2014, they have 14 NFL draft picks. Just a phenomenal number on the FCS level, and it's just a factory, especially with offensive linemen. But yes, Bryce Lance is certainly going into the year the premier FCS prospect for the 2026 NFL draft.
And it looks like the Bison will have another drafted player. And I saw Gray Zabel, the Seahawks first round pick, mauling people there in NFL Week 1. So that was fun to see as well.
And they had Cam Miller, their quarterback last year. Yeah. He was drafted with the Raiders. So, I mean, they had 2 just this past April alone.
Yeah, Cam Miller with an impressive preseason, and, of course, training with our good friend Tony Rasiopi up the road. All right, a couple of corners on the NFL radar, and I can't front. I have not had a chance to dive into the film on either Jalen Jones of William and Mary or Charles Demings of Stephen F. Austin, but that's why we brought you here on the show, Craig.
Well, let's start with Jalen Jones. I mean, he's from William and Mary's program that has, had NFL talent for sure, a lot. including, Charles Grant this past year, a terrific lineman. He's been productive from the start. I remember in his first start, I think it was the 2022 campaign, 3 interceptions in his first start, and he's just been productive ever since. Getting his hand on passes. He led the nation in passes defended last year on the FCS level. Just, what you want in a cover corner, and he's had a great career. Charles Deming, now he's been more of a late bloomer. He's down at Stephen F. Austin. They've had NFL talent. I mean, there's just it seems like it's always the same programs that just keep pumping out players that it goes beyond just being small school. I mean, Charles Demings, he has speed. He's going to test well in the 40-yard dash, maybe that 4.4 range. Really coming on with his production. Good size. He's about 6'1", 185. I just think he's another one who's just shot up in the last year, and it's great for the FCS level.
Yeah, I think was Caleb Murphy out of Stephen F. Austin?
Caleb Murphy, no.
Okay. Well, a swing and a miss for Serritella on that one. I'm trying to file through the memory banks on our small school FCS prospect watch. Craig Haley from the Analyst, senior editor, giving us some great knowledge here. And I got to sneak in some quarterbacks. So I did get up to Monmouth and saw Derek Robertson in person, and he looked the part. He's added some weight. He something he really worked on really the last 3 or 4 years, and he's just putting up arcade-like video game numbers here. What did he get? 10 touchdowns through the first 2 weeks. Derek Robertson, and a guy that NFL scouts are really paying attention to.
And the East-West Shrine Game put him on their watch list. He in 2 games, 10 touchdowns. He leads the nation in passing yardage for the FCS level. I think it's 416 maybe. And he's really taken off at Monmouth. But if you go back, he played at Maine. They started passing the ball a little bit more his final year there, 2023, and he had a very solid year. Coach Callahan, brought him in as a grad transfer. He's just taken off in that system. Last year they had an FBS win by beating Middle Tennessee. That always attracts attention. Here they are playing Charlotte this week. Yes, he's just a late bloomer. He's playing in a pro style. Monmouth, they're amazing how they've always had great running backs, and now suddenly they've kind of tailored their scheme to a quarterback. The way Derek Robertson's off the charts. They've just maximized and changed up a little bit, and he's just really taken off.
No, that's a good point. And Monmouth is not one to traditionally bring in these transfers either. But Robertson's older brother, Jimmy Robertson, is the QB coach at Monmouth. So they had the tie in there. And I'm pretty sure Derek was up at Maine with Joe, backing up Joe Fagano, I believe, who's now starting.
He was.
Yeah.
There's a good group of quarterbacks when you go from Joe Fagano to Derek Robinson. Maine's had great quarterbacks too. But it was a great transition to come to Monmouth. It's been smooth landing ever since, and they're just they have so many wide receivers and passing targets that he's just picking people apart, and he's taken it to another level here early in this season.
Yeah, he's putting those Monmouth wide receivers up there in the FCS stat leaderboard I saw in the receiving category. So definitely someone I'm really excited about. Now, Harvard, known for Ryan Fitzpatrick. They've had an NFL quarterback in the past. Tell us about Jaden Craig, because he is popping up all over the place.
He's a good one, Rick. I mean, he's a good decision maker. I mean, you look last year, I think it was 23 touchdown passes to 3 interceptions. I mean, with a high pass, completion percentage. He has decent size, a good frame at 6'2", 215. He's always had a strong arm. I remember in the Yale game a few years ago, late in the game, that it was a tight game. He overthrew the receiver just by a little bit. He was a young freshman. His arm is good. Just everything he brings to the table with the football IQ has attracted attention, as this senior year came along.
And I see his name also on the All-Star game watch list. So I'm expecting him come January to wind up in one of these showcase games. And the Yale Bowl is one stadium I have been to, full of nostalgia.
Yes.
You know, I think I was there as a member. I can't remember if I was as a member of the media or a scout, but I do remember the meal being pretty bad. It was Domino's pizza.
I've been
Which,
there, but I must have put it out of my memory that and avoided the Domino's pizza.
yeah, as you know, being from Jersey, we can't get down on
Yes.
the Domino's. So. The only place worse that I visited that served me worst food was Oregon State, believe it or not. Oregon
Really?
State Beavers. They served us some hamburgers, and Craig, when I tell you these things were harder than hockey pucks when you bit into them, they must have been a week old, and throw them out there to serve.
Rick, it's funny how our memories always involve the food in the press box, because it's always been that way in the media.
It is. It's so true. You always remember the good spots and the bad spots, don't you? All right. Well, what else you got going on at the Analyst? You guys are doing a great job covering the FCS. Give the listening audience at home a sneak peek preview of what's on tap.
Yeah, I've been Stats Reform took over the old Sports Network FCS coverage back in 2015. So you're talking over 10 years now that Stats Reform has covered the FCS. We present the top 25 national media poll, the national awards at the end of the year. The Walter Payton, the Buck Buchanan, Jerry Bryce, Eddie Robinson Awards. We have a national banquet. This year it will be in Nashville. It's always followed around the championship game, and this year the championship game has moved from Frisco, Texas, to Nashville. So we have that to look forward to. Just a lot of coverage year round. We have a podcast, the FCS Edge. A lot of FCS coverage. You find it on theanalyst.com.
Oh, that's very interesting. I wasn't aware they moved it from Frisco to Nashville this year, and man, that sounds like something I would love to get down to. So I'll be on the lookout for that event, and we'll be on the lookout for your content over at the Analyst, doing great things. The senior editor there, covering the FCS for a long time, and can't tell you how educational and appreciative and informative this interview has been. Craig, I know you're a busy man, so thanks for hopping on, and I'm sure we'll circle back to you come draft season.
Sounds terrific. Pleasure to do it, Rick. Thank you.
All right, awesome. There's Craig Haley, the best in the business when it comes to the FCS.